got an article in the Ledger-Transcript from Megan Pierce, who's now with Granite State News Collaborative. Great organization, by the way. Great organization. Totally support what they do. It's just, yeah, awesome. So this piece is for the Ledger-Transcript, specifically talking about our region here. And it's and I'll have a link for this in the description as well. But this article is mostly talking about how police are reducing contact and not pulling people over as much. So anybody who's been out driving, you're likely to have noticed that there's definitely a lot more. It feels like there's more cops out on the road, which is great because in a sense, because it's, there's still this semblance of like society happening over it. But what's interesting is that they are, calls in general are down, and and they're saying here, basically, we're being more selective on our motor vehicle enforcement. Hancock Police Chief Andrew Wood is saying that he's told officers to use social distancing and masks just like anybody else would. Same practice. Obviously for anybody that knows, any town meetings, all that kind of stuff, that's all happening online now. It's all happening in Zoom meetings, and that's so definitely from that perspective, which is less so the law enforcement, more like law generating. That's all been well contained, but like here, right? For example, we don't want to have a huge amount of contact with a lot of people. Unfortunately, it's what we do. But chasing broken taillights is not something we're prioritizing right now. So and he absolutely goes on to say that he did just arrest a guy for a DUI. So don't think that they won't don't think that like we're all of a sudden in a lawless world and it's just this weird token. It's totally, they're totally still doing their jobs. But this is a step in the positive direction here. It's a really, really positive step. It's always good at any time that you can to reduce any kind of like police intervention like that, at least in my opinion. I'm totally all for police demilitarization in any capacity. So when I see local police chiefs talking about like really just approaching it from a people perspective, it makes me feel a lot better about the police that we do have. I'm also very dubious of police because I've had my own experiences that were not great. And I've watched other people have experiences that were really not great. So, that said, it's nice to know that we're sort of like, there's trust here, actually. It takes a certain degree of trust between, like, of the police trusting their own community, to manage themselves and handle themselves as best they can. So this is a good piece. And, they're saying they, when they do need to pull a motorist over, they wear a mask, they use gloves, carry hand sanitizer, all that. It's we're seeing drops in arrests. Here's something to note is that Chief Gennard said he saw a drop in domestic violence calls, but now there's an uptick. The quote is, initially those numbers were down early on. That is beginning to change, so that is concerning to us. As time has gone on from the beginning of this thing, we are starting to see changes in some people's behavior. We are starting to see a lot of stress and frustration in people that has had an effect on people's behavior overall. Now, this is a really, really important point to bring up, okay? Maybe out on the road, it's a little easier. Mental health is a huge problem right now, like crazy huge. And most people are not dealing with it. That's just the reality. And I think anybody who spends any significant amount of time on Facebook knows this. You don't need to know what's going on in other people's homes to know that the likelihood that domestic violence has gone up is probably true. And the quarantine doesn't help with that, not just in terms of locking you in, but also restricting your mental capacity to like relieve yourself or in any of your frustrations. That's probably going to create a lot of conflict in homes where there's already conflict. So this is, this is a time where if you know somebody who struggles at all with anything, like ever, which is pretty much everyone, reach out to them and also, like, how do I want to put this? I don't know, use it as an opportunity to reflect on your own struggles, I guess. I think we're all gonna man, one of the biggest things that we're all gonna have to confront with this, right, is our tolerance of each other. And our acceptance of other people having a different way than us. Normally in society, we're able to go out, we're able to do things, we're able to, we can separate ourselves when you need to. There's more options, right? If you don't have those options, we're all of a sudden being jammed into a mental situation that like we were never ever equipped to deal with. Some of us better than others. I think introverted people probably struggling significantly less over this. But I can't tell you how many people I've heard say to me, there are just people that I never would have expected to lose it over something, and they're just off the rails over this COVID stuff. So support your neighbors and support your friends and your family. This is the time to do it. This is the time to ask the hard question, and this is the time to find acceptance in other people's differences, no matter how mad they're making us, and to know when you just need to look away and do something else. I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons that can be taught here, is like at what, we all have our own problems, but at what point does it become us making things worse for ourselves? And I know it's really difficult to just ask that everybody just be more self-aware. Like, that's not really something that you can just demand of folks. But in all seriousness, it's probably going to be an increased level of self-awareness and self-contextualization separated from emotion is probably going to help us reconcile some of those differences or see those shades of gray a little better. So, yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch on that for a second, because I think man, yeah, that's a big deal.